it's Sandra from Asexualize My Asexual Life. So if you are asexual on the asexual spectrum and you're writing about yourself, for example, on a dating site, such as an asexual dating site, then one of the things that's very difficult is if you just put Demi for people to know what you're talking about. Because you could be demisexual or you could be demiromantic. These are two completely different things. So you need to specify which one you are. A demiromantic is someone who can only experience a romantic attraction when a deep emotional bond has been formed. That's if it's formed. And that is on the aromantic spectrum. So that means that they don't experience romantic attraction usually, otherwise. And a demisexual is someone who only experiences sexual attraction when a deep emotional bond has been formed, not before. So a demisexual is on the grey asexual part of the asexual spectrum. So these are two completely different things. So please, when you're writing on dating apps or writing on dating sites, particularly for asexuals, because we kind of know more about what you're talking about, specify where it's demisexual or demiromantic, or if you're both. So once again, demiromantic is on the aromantic spectrum of the asexual spectrum, but you can obviously get a demiromantic of a different sexual attraction. It doesn't have to be an asexual. You could be a demiromantic sexual person because it's romantic orientation. Demiromantics is romantic orientation. Demisexual is sexual orientation. These are two different things, right? But they're usually language used in asexuality and in asexual terms. So don't forget to specify whether you are demiromantic or demisexual, because they are very different. And remember, a demisexual is not the same as a normal sexual person, because they can only experience sexual attraction when deep emotional bond has been formed. Whereas some sexuals, they might like an emotional bond to be there, but it's not reliant on a lack of sexual attraction and only experiencing sexual attraction once that emotional bond's been formed. You know, they can still feel sexual attraction, sexuals can. They don't need the emotional bond, but they might like it to be there. Whereas a demisexual has to have the emotional bond to even experience sexual attraction in the first place. And it might interest you to know that some people who are demisexual, they don't even class themselves as on the asexual spectrum. I met a lesbian person when I was going to be a speaker at the UK Asexuality Conference in 2018, and she identified as part of LGBT but not as asexual. And she told me, I'm demisexual but I don't identify as asexual. So it's very interesting that some people don't class demisexual as asexual at all. So each individual person might identify differently, and this is very, very interesting, because obviously if you come across someone who identifies as demisexual and is part of the asexual spectrum, they may have very different attitudes and mindset to someone who identifies as demisexual on the sexual spectrum. So it's always best when you come across these people to actually ask them what their sexual orientation means to them, what their romantic orientation means to them, so you can really understand them a lot better and not make assumptions. I think as an admin of 5 asexual groups, it becomes very difficult when something like demisexual might be, you know, different and considered by someone else on the sexual spectrum. They don't consider themselves asexual at all, but for example, they see the title demisexual and they go in that group. And obviously a demisexual asexual person is going to have very different thinking a lot of the time, like I said, to a demisexual person who identifies sexually. So it can get very complicated, and this is why we have to take the time to understand different people. Everyone's valid, doesn't matter what your sexual orientation is. It's just that obviously they are different in terms of where they're coming from in their mindset, attitudes, and beliefs. And, you know, they might have different attitudes when they come in groups as well. So you've got to obviously maintain as much harmony as possible within groups and make sure you're all kind of on the same page. You know, some people have lots of different mixed orientations in groups, like LGBT groups, whereas me, I stick to anyone on the asexual spectrum being in my groups, but I have very specific niches within those groups. So, for example, one is a no sex dating group for asexuals. So, I don't have anyone in that group who must have sex in it. Whereas the grey and demisexual group that I run, some of them might want sex in the future with a partner. So it's very different. Anyway, I hope you found this video useful, helpful, and insightful. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that great big bell icon to get notified of every time I post a new video like this one or go live. See you soon.